The hot chowder slid down my cheek in a burning trail, stinging like someone had slapped me with a live wire. The restaurant lights were too bright, my son's voice too loud, the room too quiet around us. People stared, forks frozen halfway to their mouths, breath caught in their throats. And across the table, Linda, my son's mother-in-law, sat smiling, as calm as a snake lounging on a warm rock. "That's what you deserve," she said, her voice sugary and cruel, like poison stirred into sweet tea. My son looked at her, then looked at me, and he said the words that sliced deeper than the soup ever could. "She's right, Mom."
I didn't say a thing.
Not because I didn't have words, but because I finally realized something. I was not safe among my own people. My face was burning, but my heart was colder than a January morning in Vermont. I dabbed my cheek with a napkin, stood up slowly, and every eye in the restaurant followed me. No one spoke. No one stopped me. No one apologized. And I didn't ask for anything. But before I walked out the door, I made one simple call. Just one. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just said 5 quiet words into the phone. Start it. Tonight. All of it. The person on the other end didn't ask for clarity.
Didn't need it.
"Yes, ma'am," they said. And hung up. And that was the night the world they built, the one they thought I was too weak to touch, began to crumble like wet cardboard in the rain. The restaurant was called Harbor and Hearth, a cozy upscale place near the marina in Charleston, South Carolina. The kind where candles flickered on tables, jazz hummed in the background, and plates were decorated with herbs no one knew the name of. We were there to celebrate my son Ethan's 6-month anniversary with his wife, Claire.
Celebrate.
What a joke. From the moment I arrived, I could feel the temperature drop, like I'd walked into a freezer, except the cold wasn't from the air, it was from them. Linda, blonde helmet hair, pearl necklace, country club queen, looked at me like I was dirt under her shoe. Claire didn't even look up. Ethan smiled like a man forcing a smile for a dentist's drill. I knew then. This wasn't a dinner. This was a setup. Whenever I tried to speak, Linda made a face like my words had a bad smell. Whenever Ethan talked to me, Claire squeezed his hand under the table. And then the soup incident happened. Linda picked up her spoon, blew gently, and tossed the burning liquid straight into my face like she was watering her garden. The heat punched me. The entire restaurant gasped. Someone whispered, "Did she just?" And Ethan, my son, my only child, "She's right, Mom." Those 4 words should have broken me. Instead, they woke something in me that had been sleeping far too long. Something sharp, something quiet, something powerful. I stepped out into the cold night air. Charleston smelled of salt water, streetlights, and distant rain. My face still burned, but my mind was ice. I pulled out my phone, dialed a number I hadn't called in 8 years. It rang once.
Mom.
The voice on the other end was deep, steady, loyal. "It's time," I said. "Start tonight." There was no pause, no hesitation. "Yes, ma'am."
Click.
That was it. Not shouting. Not revenge talk. Not threats. Just activation. Because 8 years ago, after my husband died, after I was left alone with a toddler and a mortgage the size of Texas, I built something. Quietly. Efficiently. Legally, done a network. A set of companies. A small but powerful empire. It was invisible because I made it that way. Even Ethan didn't know. I never flaunted it. Never used it.
But tonight?
Tonight, it would move like a shadow stretching across everything Linda and her family owned. Back at the restaurant, they were probably laughing. Probably saying I was dramatic. Probably calling me weak. They didn't know that by the time their dessert arrived, the following had already begun. A forensic audit of Linda's husband's company, requested by one of my firms that held silent shares. A halt order on their incoming real estate development deal. A legal investigation into Claire's trust fund board. A private security detail assigned to quietly observe Ethan's behavior and safety. Freezing of certain joint accounts they didn't know were vulnerable. And most importantly, a mandatory emergency review of the assisted facility where Linda was trustee after whistleblower complaints documented by my office. Linda didn't know my companies touched her world. She didn't know I was the woman funding half the nonprofits her charity pretended to support. She didn't know the small businesses she ignored were connected. She didn't know the quiet little woman she threw soup on controlled more than she ever dreamed. That was the thing about power. Real power doesn't shout. It whispers. And when it moves, the ground shifts. 2 hours after I left, Linda's phone buzzed. She ignored it. Then it buzzed again. And again. Finally, she picked up, annoyed. What? Her face drained to white. Her voice shrank. What do you mean the board is meeting tonight? No one told me. That's illegal. Another call. Another message. Another problem. Her husband turned pale. Claire looked confused. Ethan looked scared for the first time all night. And I sat at home, face treated with cool aloe, sipping chamomile tea, watching the storm roll in through the window.
Calm. Silent.
Untouched. Because when I walked away, I didn't walk away defeated. I walked away in control. Midnight in Charleston is usually quiet. Boats rocking gently at the docks. Streetlights glowing gold on the wet asphalt. Crickets humming their lazy chorus. But not tonight. Tonight, phones were ringing in every corner of Linda's perfect little world. At 12:07 a.m., her husband Richard received a call from his CFO. Sir, we have a problem. Richard, half asleep, snapped awake. What kind of problem? Federal compliance is requesting immediate access to our books. Someone filed a report, backed by documents we've never seen before. Richard sat up straight. What documents? Sir, internal documents. Ones revealing misreported numbers. Richard froze.
He wasn't stupid. He knew what that meant.
Who filed it? He whispered. The report came anonymously, but it was forwarded by one of our minor silent shareholders. Richard's throat tightened, because he knew exactly who that was. The woman he allowed to be insulted. The one his wife threw soup on.
Me.
Across town, Ethan sat on the edge of his bed, unable to sleep. He kept replaying the scene at the restaurant. The soup, my expression, the silence, the calmness. He expected me to yell, to fight, to break down. But I didn't. And something about that scared him far more than if I had screamed. Because he had never seen me look like that. Not in all his 27 years. Not after his father died. Not when we struggled with money. Not when I lost everything and rebuilt from zero. He told Claire, maybe we went too far tonight. Claire rolled her eyes. Oh, please. Your mother has always been dramatic. She needs to know her place. But Ethan didn't answer. Because deep down, under the guilt he refused to acknowledge, under the shame he tried to swallow, a single thought whispered across his mind. What if Mom wasn't as weak as they think? At 1:25 a.m., the group chat for the Magnolia Foundation board lit up. Linda sat on her couch, makeup smudged, pacing like a trapped cat. The messages were frantic. Emergency meeting tomorrow morning. Serious allegations reported. Linda must present accounting records immediately. She panicked. Her hand shook so badly, she dropped her phone. Richard. They're trying to remove me. He didn't respond. He was too busy staring at the documents his CFO had sent him over email. Documents showing misallocation of funds. Accounts that didn't match. Money transferred under Linda's authorization. He looked at her slowly. Linda, what did you do? She backed away. I didn't do anything. This must be some mistake. Someone's framing us. Richard rubbed his face. Not someone, he said quietly. We know exactly who. Meanwhile, in my small but warm townhouse, I sat in my office with a single lamp on, reviewing reports coming in from my team. Every message confirmed the same thing. The system was moving. Fast. Efficient. Precise. Nothing I triggered was illegal. Nothing was revenge. It was simply truth. Truth they'd been hiding. Truth I'd known about but never acted on. Until tonight.
My phone buzzed again.
A text from an old colleague. Board agrees to proceed. All actions scheduled by sunrise. We stand with you. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. Not because I wasn't satisfied, but Because power doesn't celebrate. Power works quietly, patiently, purposefully. And tonight, for the first time, they were seeing who I truly was. Not the woman who struggled. Not the woman they mocked.
Not the mother they dismissed.
But the woman who built an empire in silence. The woman who could shake their world with one phone call. The sun wasn't even up when the first knock came.
Boom. Boom. Boom.
Linda stumbled out of bed, hair wild, eyes red from crying. At the door stood two officials from the Foundation Oversight Committee. Mrs. Hargrove, we need access to your financial records. Immediately. She stuttered. It's 6 a.m. This is an emergency investigation. Behind them, a neighbor peeked from their window. Rumors were already forming. At the same time, Ethan sat in his car outside our townhouse.
He looked exhausted.
Dark circles under his eyes, hair messy, regret settling into his bones. He didn't knock right away. He just sat there, gripping the steering wheel, whispering to himself. What did I do? What did I do? Finally, he got out, walked slowly to the door, took a breath, lifted his hand, and knocked. When I opened the door, Ethan looked like a little boy again. Not the grown man who sat silent while his mother-in-law humiliated me. Not the man who said, "She's right, Mom," but a scared, shaking child who didn't know how to fix what he broke. "Mom," he whispered. I didn't move aside. I didn't welcome him in. I simply stood there, calm as still water. He swallowed hard. "Can I come in?" My voice was steady, almost emotionless. "Why?" He blinked. "Why? Mom, please. I want to talk." "You didn't want to talk last night." He winced like I'd slapped him.
Mom, I'm sorry.
But apologies are cheap when spoken late. I stepped aside only enough to let him in without brushing against me. He noticed the distance. He felt it. And guilt washed over him like a cold wave. He walked inside, nervously glancing at the tidy living room, the stillness, the untouched tea mug. "Mom, you're scaring me." I sat down in my chair. "You should be scared, Ethan. Not of me. Of what your choices triggered." He sank into the couch like he couldn't hold himself up. "Mom, I don't understand." "You will," I said quietly. I slid my phone toward him. 5 notifications were on the screen. Foundation Board, emergency removal vote. Federal audit, confirmed. Development deal, frozen. Trust fund hearing, scheduled. Legal review, active. Ethan went white. "Mom, what is all this?" "The consequences," I said. "For what you allowed last night." He shook his head. No, Mom. This is too much."
No, Ethan.
What was too much was you letting someone throw burning soup on me and agreeing she was right. He started to cry. Real tears. Regretful tears. The kind that come when truth hits harder than pain. Linda was in hell. Officials surrounded her dining table, the same table where she'd once bragged about being untouchable. Now she was anything but. Mrs. Hargrove, an investigator, said, "Can you explain these transfers?" Linda stuttered. Those were charity contributions." "No," he said, placing a document in front of her. "These came from the charity, not to the charity." Her heart dropped. Richard stood in the doorway, arms crossed, face gray. "This could ruin us," he whispered. Linda snapped. "It's her. She did this. Ethan's mother." But the official corrected her.
"No, ma'am.
You did this." She only exposed what already existed. Linda's lips trembled. For the first time in her life, she realized she was the villain of her own story, and she finally met someone who wouldn't tolerate it. Back at my house, Ethan's hands shook as he held the phone. "Mom, why didn't you tell me you had this kind of influence?" "Because I raised you to respect me even without it." He dropped his head. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." "That's not what I'm deciding." He looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" "I'm deciding," I said gently, "whether you deserve access to my life at all." A breath caught in his throat. "Mom, please."
Don't say that.
"I'm not punishing you, Ethan. I'm protecting myself. And I'm giving you the chance to understand something simple. You cannot marry into disrespect and still expect to keep your mother close. His tears fell hard now. Tell me what to do, he whispered. I'll do anything. I shook my head.
No.
You will do what is right without expecting a reward from me. Ethan's phone rang. It was Claire. He didn't pick up. She called again and again. Finally, on the fourth call, he answered with a cold voice I had never heard from him before. What do you want? From the other side, Claire shrieked. Your mother ruined everything. She caused all this. My family is falling apart. Ethan closed his eyes. No, he said softly. My mother didn't ruin anything. Your family's actions did. Claire gasped like she'd been stabbed. You're taking her side? After everything? Ethan whispered. After everything, yes. He hung up. He looked at me, broken but awakening. Mom, I want to fix this. I nodded slowly. Then start by fixing yourself. Ethan wiped his face and took a deep breath. What do I need to do? I leaned back, studying him. You need to learn the difference between silence and loyalty, between love and submission, between marriage and manipulation. He swallowed. And you need to face your wife and your mother-in-law, not as their puppet, but as a man who knows who he belongs to. He whispered, To you? No, I said softly. To truth, to respect, and to yourself. He nodded, trembling. I'll go talk to them. I stood up.
Good.
Because the storm is just beginning, and you need to decide whether you'll stand in it or drown with them.